Okay, so I'm right here still in Dhammasara. It's really delightful to be back. So yeah, I had a holiday for about 5 weeks, coming to the end of my holiday. And I was mostly staying at Jana Grove Meditation Retreat Center, which is on the other side of Ajahn Brahm's monastery. And in the nuns' cottage, it was just me. So it was really nice and very, very peaceful, very nice seclusion. So it was really nice to have that very quiet time there. And I thought it's nice to come and see my sisters at my home monastery, Dhammasara, for the last week. It was incredible to be back here. The place is buzzing with bliss. It's kind of oxymoron to say buzzing with bliss, but that's how it felt like, you know. The first day I came on Monday after lunch. And Monday evening, around about 6:30 or so, I just went for a walk, just around the monastery complex and onto the stupas and to the Bodhi tree. Everything was so quiet. There are more than 18 nuns here. I think most of them were like meditating at that time. It was so, so peaceful, so blissful. It was really delightful to be back, and I realized how wonderful it is to live monastic life also in a big community, in a place that has been, having monastics for nearly maybe 30 years, Dhammasara. So it was delightful. And I'm continuing my retreat with a little bit of busyness from here and there. So today I did get a topic from someone, and they said to talk about the existential dread faced when they get hit by the idea of impermanence. So for me, this is a little bit difficult to relate to. Why? Because I have a very different association to the idea of impermanence, anicca, in Pali. To me, the idea of impermanence brings delight. It's very freeing and liberating. It's a meditation that I do, and it's easy for me to become still. And so because of that, it is hard for me to even understand why somebody would have existential dread when they see impermanence. So I'm not sure whether it was an overestimation or over exaggeration using that term, but maybe there are people when they do see the idea of their idea of permanence getting cracked. Because the idea of permanence is very rooted in people. People feel that everything is how it should be, everything is under their control, it belongs to me, and nothing should be changing. This is how people like things to be deep down. However, if you think about it, that'll be quite an awful situation. Imagine if your every day was the same, even if it is a nice day, if it is the same nice day again and again and again, I'm sure you'll get bored of it. Even if you had the really nice food and everything, too much of a good thing is also not good, people say, after a while. It is then not good because it just becomes normal. So the idea of change is actually, in a way, helpful as well. This is also when you have that idea of eternal life in heaven, I think would be dreadful. Because if everything is always just nice and the same, I think would be difficult. I don't know whether it's actually all that great. Anyway, so but the idea of when your loved ones pass away, that is a fact of impermanence. When you lose your job, when you see the uncertainty and instability of political situations in the world, or the financial things, or the climate. All of these things, if you direct, you see things are constantly changing, sometimes in good ways, but often in not so good ways. And that instability of things may trigger certain feelings of dread, I suppose. So the thing is, this happens when our right view isn't strong enough. So if you get a little bit more dread kind of thing happening, when you see the unstable nature of life and things around, we need to do more reflection on right view and right understanding, and it also has to be supported by our virtue. Because if our virtue, our actions by body, speech, and mind are directed in a good way, even if our own death happens, then we know that we have lived life in a good way. And that's all we can do, that we have been kind as much as possible. We have been gentle, caring, and we have done as much as possible the right thing. So, because if we haven't, and if we have lots of regrets and remorse, then again, when we see the unstable nature and the idea of one's own death may bring a bit more fear. And of course, all of us, are not perfect. We have all done various degrees of, stupidity, silly things in our lives. This is how it is when we have defilements. This is the nature of defiled mind, to sometimes do silly things, say silly things, and think about silly things. This is how it is before enlightenment. So we need to sort of understand with right view how we have been conditioned from the past to do those things. Our view has been distorted, and following those views that we have taken on board, the perceptions and conventions that we have taken on board, not everything is according to the Dhamma. A lot of them are based on defilements, greed, hatred, and delusion. They come from there. And obviously, if we take up those things, we will end up doing things that are not very kind, very nice. But we were not able to, do otherwise because one, we didn't probably have enough mindfulness. Two, our view was distorted. So with a distorted view and not having enough mindfulness, what would we expect but a bit of trouble? But we need to then forgive ourselves. Yeah, we forgive our past actions. And then we make a determination from this moment onwards, I'm going to live the life in a good way. So, this idea of impermanence, when we see change, when we see the unstable nature of life around us and our own life, then instead of having this kind of dread, we build up a sense of urgency to live life well. Right? So that sense of urgency is not necessarily to run off into becoming a monastic. Yeah, you have to find a gradual way. It is a gradual path, a gradual training, a gradual development of our mind. So if we are in a hurry, then we have to go slow. Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? Because this is that very, very sweet story between the race between the bunny and the tortoise. Who won the race? The tortoise, right? Slow and steady, persistence, perseverance, and taking those small steps. When you see a sense of urgency, you start running in a way that is uncontrolled and unsafe, you might crash, collapse. So we have to be careful. It is important to get a sense of urgency. And the most important thing to do when we have the sense of urgency is to take care of our virtue, our sila, yeah, who we are, the way we do things. This is where we can do something straight away. And straight away it brings fruit and it brings some feelings of ease when you live in a good way, think in a good way, speak in a good way. And also that brings much more meaning to life, because if we project into life in a very materialistic way, or in a way that is grounded on greed, sense of ego, and with negativity, then it is difficult. So therefore, we have to sort of find a meaningful way to live our life. So what can I do to make my day more fulfilling for myself and others? And this could vary from person to person, what you are able to do and offer. It could be little acts of service, little acts of kindness, few simple, nice, kind words, or it could be your meditation. Yeah, whatever it is, we need to turn around. Even how you deal with your work, whatever work you're doing. How do you do it? Yeah, the attitudes in the mind and the way that you behave. All of that, when that changes, something changes in your heart. It is not necessarily only what you do. Of course, what you do matters. If you're doing something immoral, that is not good. But it's not only about what you do, but it's also about how you do it. How you do it makes a big difference to how you feel in your heart. So when you do it in a skillful way, the heart starts to fill up. And when we have joy building up in our heart, then it is easier to deal with the reality of life. So this is where there is a little bit of danger in too much contemplation, becoming too philosophical and thinking, about things, and people can get into depression. Because this kind of investigation, this kind of reflection about reality has to go hand in hand with your meditation. Joy states have to be there to support you when you see reality, because seeing reality is difficult. Seeing reality is difficult, which is why we constantly distract ourselves. Reality isn't hard to see. When we speak about it, we can see straight away that I could die anytime. I could lose everything I own. All of my loved ones could be gone. The world could come to an end. All of those things we know are real and can happen. But if you just think like that in a long way, it can get into depression if you only think about it like that. But it's a very different feeling when that reflection is supported by meditation and joy states. So then you understand you can face reality better. So this is also why we have over lifetimes developed distractions. This is why we are so much into our phone, into music, into watching news or anything, yeah? Whatever it is that we do, we try to distract ourselves because reality, even the present moment, is painful. It is suffering. This is the Buddha's discovery, right? First noble truth of suffering. What we call as happiness is just degrees of suffering. All existence is nothing but unsatisfactoriness. It is difficult. But if you just think about it like that, of course, the mind can get into depression, and this is very dangerous. If we just thinking about it isn't going to do anything, right? This is life. This is how samsara is. But once we know this truth, then there is a path that can be followed. So our job is to follow it. Whether we reach the final end today or in this life, we don't know. It depends on the maturity of our spiritual faculties. And we don't know each one, we are different. And our job is to just keep doing the path, walking this path, doing this gradual training of the mind, training of the heart. Yeah, little by little, just doing that, then the life becomes meaningful. Then you have a different idea. Wow, how grateful I am to be born, to be a human, to have good mental functioning faculties, to understand and be able to comprehend the Dhamma, to have enough right view, and to sort of accept and understand right view when you hear it, and be able to apply myself in this right view. How fortunate I am to have opportunities to do this. Yeah, the teachings are available right now. Opportunities are there. So instead of worrying about what can happen, do what can be done. Yeah, what can you do today with your capacity, with your ability, instead of worrying and having anxiety about it? Because that is counterproductive. Yeah. So this is where I have to say that it is not a small thing what we do to build up this generosity. Why generosity is a big part of our spiritual journey, even though you can't see that in the Noble Eightfold Path or in the gradual training sequence. Generosity is there at every step, even walking this path, right? Being a peaceful, kind person, a harmless person, keeping virtue is an act of generosity. Yeah. And then, of course, when it comes to keeping the sila in the gradual training, it is not only about refraining from things, but also doing the opposite positive thing. So instead of stealing, it is about giving. So there is also generosity there. But and being kind and all of those things, and even meditation, all of these things are act of generous acts by body, speech, and mind, and they actually provide the necessary fuel to carry us forward. Generosity is like the fuel, yeah, that gives you energy to walk the path, that gives an uplift into the mind. If the mind is not generous, if the mind is not open, it is really impossible to walk this path. And the very thing, like the generosity in Pali is called chaga. Yeah, chaga. And the meditation, that the reflection on generosity is called chaganusati. So that is just recollecting your own generosity, your goodness of your own life. But the same word, chaga, patinisago, mutti, analayo, these are four Pali terms that the Buddha used to explain the third noble truth. And that is so the first noble truth is the noble truth of suffering. Second noble truth is that the cause for suffering, which is desire or craving. And the third noble truth is that giving up of that very craving and desire. Giving up of that craving and that desire is explained through chaga. Patinisago, mutti, analeo means that is giving up, throwing it out, extinguishing it, right? Uprooting it, all of those kinds of ideas. So that is about giving and giving up. The idea of giving is the starting point. Just being able to give something is the starting point of completely giving up everything that you own. Yeah, and that is not easy, especially when you think about the body. And these are the other things that people experience as they meditate. If their meditation is not balanced with right view, that's the right teachings, yeah, and sila, then things can go a bit out of balance. And at those times, when you come to a stage where the body is going to disappear in a meditative state, then also some people might have that kind of existential dread. It shouldn't, but that is when things are not in balance. That is why this is a gradual path, not to jump from a cliff into the deep end of the ocean. The Buddha says you start from the shore and you walk, and the ocean gets deeper gradually, stage by stage. And that is the way to develop this path. It is called Anupubba Sikka, Anupubba Kiriya, Anupubba Patipada. And if you're actually interested and keen, there is a workshop happening right now. We started it last Saturday. Ajahn Brahmali and myself did the first class, and this Saturday I'll be doing it with Ajahn Mudito, and there will be 3 more classes again with Ajahn Brahmali, Venerable Ajahn Munisara, and Ajahn Venerable Sunyo. So there you will learn how to build up this path gradually, quite in a stable way. And we have to have patience. Yeah. So this is what the Buddha said, Kanti Paramang Tapo Titika. Yeah. Patience, endurance is the highest of the spiritual practices to tame this mind, to sort of burn out all the defilements. Yeah. Tapotitika tapassa, so that is the burning out of the defilements, extinguishing of the defilements. Patience is the highest kind of spiritual practice. So we have to be patient. The more and more we see the instability, the impermanence of life, our own life and life around us and things around us, we have to build up patience. Yeah. So patiently and very gently, our job is to just put forth the right kind of effort. And what is the right kind of effort? The right kind of effort is the effort to abandon any unwholesome, any akusala, yeah, any unwholesome thing that is arisen, the effort to abandon it, right? So we can just do this much. And also the right effort is to make sure unarisen, unwholesome states do not come to be. So check out, how can I stop myself from getting into unwholesome things that I'm not doing already? And we have to be alert all the time because there are so many things in the modern world. You only have to pick up a phone, right? It's easy for the unarisen, unwholesome to arise very quickly. Yeah, and the third form is to safeguard the arisen wholesome, whatever wholesome states you have, make sure they don't diminish. Yeah, you keep them. And the fourth kind of effort is to bring up more wholesome, the wholesome that you're not doing. If you're not yet meditating, start meditating. If you're only meditating for 5 minutes, increase it. Yeah, whatever it is, the little bit you can do to make a bit more, making that effort to do more wholesome. So when you're putting forth that right effort, then you know you are doing what you can from where you are. And as you build up, you will slowly build up. So patiently, you put forth the right kind of effort in the right direction. So build up a right view and meditate in a right way. Because if you don't, it is dangerous. I mean, I started my retreat with attending Ajahn Brahm's 9-day retreat. And then I stayed back, and there were a couple of retreatants who also stayed back. And there was a new retreatant, somebody who's new to Buddhism, but who was quite like motivated, probably had sort of got this kind of sense of urgency, wanted to get enlightened during their stay at Jhana Grove. They were really quite very new to Buddhism, very new to meditation, but they had the view that somehow you can really get enlightened if you really, put forth effort like that. Like, in the wrong kind of way, they sort of pushed their mind in a very strong way, in the wrong kind of way. This is why the path is gradual, but they ended up in psychosis and in the mental health hospital because it is dangerous. The mind is a very powerful thing and it has to be trained gradually. If you try to push it in the wrong way and with its correct supports in the right way, it is going to go very wrong, and this is very dangerous, right? So this is the danger sometimes. If our practice, our meditation is not supported with enough teaching, which is enough right view and virtue, it can be dangerous. So this happens from time to time. So it is important, since we are talking about this kind of existential dread, that happens when we are not ready, when the path that we are practicing is imbalanced. So it is important, if that is happening to you, to stop and have a little break and put forth more effort into gentle things like generosity and kindness, right? So we have to do like this, and we have to be careful in building this mind up in the right way. So these are a few things that come into my mind. I haven't spoken that long. I realize there's only not even half an hour, but it might be nice to maybe open up for questions and see. Okay. So there is a comment saying volume very low. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, seems okay. All right. So anybody, if you have some questions or anything else you would like to talk for me to talk about, you can unmute and ask or put into the chat.
I'll jump in, Venerable. Thank you.
Hello.
I mean, hello. It's probably lots of questions, but I'll just go with what's just, what's present now. You kind of emphasize, well, one of the things you said was don't jump off a cliff,
Mm.
And it's just interesting because there's a monk that's been in town. His name's Bante Sudaso. And I think on maybe more than one occasion in the last couple of weeks, he's made this suggestion. Okay, sit for 4 hours for 1 week in one sitting. And it's kind of interesting. I guess I'm interested, because it's, like you're saying don't jump off a cliff, but then he's saying that, you kind of don't allow your mind to escape anymore by doing that. So I guess I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm not saying this. I'm just relating to you what the Buddha said. Yeah. So the Buddha said it's a gradual path. So it's not me. So you have to discuss and think about what the Buddha said and what a modern monk is saying and make your own decision on where you want to go. Read after sutta after sutta. There is no place the Buddha says, sit for this long. Buddha says it's a gradual path. You will naturally sit if you put in the right courses. Yeah, it has to be a natural process. If you do it by force, that is when the danger is. This happens again and again. In monastic life, I have been around long enough to see this to happen when people do things in the wrong way. If you are ready, you will sit for hours naturally. That's not a problem. But if you push yourself like that, that is not correct. Yeah, so you don't put forth force. Right effort is not coming from willpower. If you want, read, there are so many suttas where the Buddha talks about the meditation psychology. There is no, the name of one of the suttas is Na Chetana Karaniya Bhikkave. So you do not need to exert will to make meditation happen, right? So there itself, this is word of the Buddha saying again and again in the suttas, it is not through willpower. The moment we push through willpower without putting in the right courses, crash. This happens. Yeah? So this is really important to know and stick to the word of the Buddha more than anything else. So really be very careful about these things when we hear, and check with the Buddha's teachings. So the Buddha says, putting in the right causes and conditions, then the fruits will come. And what are these right causes? The Buddha says the starting point for meditation, when you sit on the cushion, the important thing is that you do not have regrets and remorse. So, in order to maintain that you do not have regrets and remorse, this is why we have the rest of the path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right? If you actually practice those things, then you would live your life in a reasonably good way, where there will be less regrets and remorse because you tried your very best. So when you do not have regrets and remorse, the mind has gladness called pamoja. It's a natural state that comes as a result of doing the right things. So those things are done outside of the meditation sitting, and you sit into the formal meditation, then you have gladness in the mind. And when you have gladness of the mind, when your mind is glad, then the Buddha says you don't have to exert will. Joy or rapture will come as a result, as a natural consequence of mind becoming still. And it just goes all the way into deep meditation, just like that. So it's not through willpower. You sit naturally, and that is the right time that you can actually make progress. So that's all I can add to that. Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Adrian.
So did you say that that person that was at the at Jana Grove, who was it was their first time, they ended up having psychosis? Is that right?
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty heavy stuff.
This is
Yeah.
they're in hospital, and this is not the
Wow.
first time this has happened. This happens just
Okay.
because of wrong understanding. This is why there is this. I mean, we busted this myth last Saturday together with
Mhm.
Ajahn Brahmali, this
Yeah.
instantaneous enlightenment, the
Mhm.
idea of instantaneous enlightenment, that, it's like if you just push forth,
Yeah.
but you just go for it, and
Yeah.
suddenly, boom, you might get enlightened. And this is
Yeah.
what this person also thought. Because sometimes people, when they become peaceful, you do get a bit of brightness in the mind. Some kind of
Yeah.
light starts to come up, and they get very excited, thinking, okay, that's it. If I just go for the light, I will get
Mm.
enlightened, without realizing there is no right understanding yet about the Dhamma. I mean,
Mm.
virtue is not really, there either, and so
Mm.
all of these things, we don't realize how important these things are. And if you look up in the Majjhima Nikaya, 117,
Mm.
Mahachattarasika Sutta, the Buddha
Mhm.
says, the stillness, the deep meditation, Samma
Mm.
Samadhi,
Mhm.
is samadhi that is developed based on the other seven factors, not
Mm.
anything else. So it is not about using some kind of technique
Mm.
and getting your mind to be still, which is what most people try to do. They try to develop all kinds of techniques to somehow gather your mind and get it focused. And
Mm.
this has happened through and through in history. Like, people would do this. Yeah, so, and they can get psychic abilities, they can do all kinds of things.
Mm.
A concentrated mind is powerful, but a
Mm.
concentrated mind, concentrated in that way, without the supports of the other seven factors of the
Mm.
Noble Eightfold Path, will not get you enlightened. That's all.
Mm.
So that
Mm.
powerful mind, then when it is not supported by the other seven factors,
Mm.
can then go in the wrong direction and get into trouble, which is what we have seen. This has happened to monastics.
Mm.
As
Oh,
we,
okay.
yes, of course, this happens
Oh,
around the world.
yeah.
Sometimes, if they didn't have the right basis, monastics, as in young monastics, when they just first started, haven't still
Mm.
got all the bases right, but then
Mhm.
uh, push forth like this.
Yeah.
It shouldn't happen because in our
Yeah.
monasteries you get the right guidelines, but people still try. So,
Mm.
it is important sometimes to mention these things because we do see
Mm.
this happen. I have seen this multiple times happen in the monasteries as well as during retreats.
Mhm.
So, which is why the Buddha said, which is why we have to follow the instructions of the Buddha. If whatever any modern teacher says is in line with what the Buddha says, that's
Mm.
fine. But if it
Yeah.
is not, then be careful. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
It's a very long thing from
Thanks,
Bhav.
I.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Adrian? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, I. And I just want to say, yeah, it's wonderful that you're doing the discussion with Ajahn Brahmali. That's wonderful. I'm
Okay.
looking forward to watching it. Thanks, I.
Okay. All right. So there's a long question from Bhagya. I would like to ask a question on greed. According to the Buddhist philosophy, it is so well explained one of key factors towards for us to keep traversing in wheel of samsara is the greed, which is strongly influenced by failure of understand of impermanence. In order to achieve the supreme bliss of nirvana, to overcome suffering, one needs to be determined and will have to possess strong fortitude to achieve, overcome suffering. My question is the determination and effort towards achieving nirvana, is that a form of greed in itself? How do you explain? May the blessings of Triple Gem be with you. It's a good question. So there are a couple of words for the same kind of similar thing. So there is the word chanda, is also a form of desire. There is then raga, right? There is the tanha. So these are all something in relation to you're wanting something. Yeah, you want something. So chanda is that basic wanting. So, in order to lead the spiritual path, you also need a certain form of chanda. And even somebody during the time of the Buddha asked this question. I can't remember whether it was to Venerable Sariputta or to Venerable Ananda. I think it was to Venerable Ananda. And when this person asked, does your teacher teach? He says that we teach the way to end chanda, end desire. And then the person asked, so how does he train you? What do you do? Said he trains you to, practice desire, something like this. This is I'm just saying by memory because I can't pull out the sutta straight away. So the person get confused. Your teacher teaches you to end desire, and you do it by putting forth desire. It's kind of counterproductive. I mean, it's like an oxymoron. What do you mean? I'm confused. Then when Ananda says, now, in order for you to come into this monastery today, this morning, did you have some chanda, some desire to come here? He said, yes. Now that you have arrived here, do you still have that chanda, that desire to come here? He said, no. It's like that. So in order to develop the path, you also need to have a form of desire to end the suffering, but that's a wholesome desire, right? And then once you finish, the desire is also finished. So this chanda is there even in the Iddhipadas. If you know the what do you call Iddhipadas in English? The psychic potency. Anybody remember? I forgot the English term. Anyway, the four Iddhipadas is the chanda is one thing. You have to have chanda, the desire, but it is not the unwholesome kind of desire. It is not rooted in a sense of self. It is rather a wholesome desire to end suffering in the sense in a very universal way, personal as well as universal, like ending of suffering. And it comes the more and more you walk you understand there is no sense of self. So it is not coming from a person, but a desire to end the suffering. So so then it is very interesting. Yeah. So it is, otherwise we won't be able to do anything, right? We won't be able to even get up and sit down onto a meditation cushion. You won't be able to do anything without a form of desire, but this is the wholesome. So it is important to know the wholesome kind of desire and the tanha, that is the craving that keeps us in samsara. So the kind of thing that keeps us in samsara are the things that creates our existence, our bhava. And those are those attachments, those are those desires for wanting to experience the things in the sensual world. Yeah, the things in the sensual world that we attach to. Those are the things that we create the bhava. So in order to understand this again, now, do you crave to eat grass? We don't, right? So we crave to eat maybe McDonald's or some kind of human food. I don't know, McDonald's is not a good thing, but whatever kind of human food. We don't crave to eat grass. But if you were a kangaroo would crave to eat grass, some kind of really nice grass. They might have their, really nice kinds of grasses that they really like to eat. So once you have that kind of, real greed to eat whatever, that creates that existence. So since we don't crave to eat grass, we probably would not be born as a grass-eating animal, because our bhava is not created in that kind of, what I'm trying to say is not just grass, but we don't think like how a kangaroo thinks, because we don't even know what it is like to be a kangaroo. All we know is to be a human being. So we are attached to human things, the kind of music we want to listen, the food we want to eat, the things that we want to do as human beings, even the people that we like to hang around, the kind of lifestyle we want. There's so many different kinds of lifestyles in the human realm itself. And whatever it is that we establish, we sort of crave for, we hold on to, that is what creates another above, another existence for us in that realm, kind of. So therefore, those are the kind of desires that are dangerous. So it is not so hard to say. So the desire to end desire is a good one, but desire to continue on, and especially desire for the sensual world, because kama chanda, yeah, so the kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, those are the dangerous desires. So specifically, the second noble truth is three kinds. Kama tanha is the craving for the sensual world. So that's the kind of desire we need to sort of end slowly. We are working towards that. Bhava tanha is the desire to exist. Yeah. And vibhava tanha is the desire to end existence, but with the wrong way of thinking, I am here and I want to end, rather than understanding that it is a conditioned process that will come to an end. But so vibhava tanha is a little bit like suicidal kind of thoughts. You got fed up with life and you are here and you want to kind of end it because you've had enough. So that's kind of vibhava tanha type, and it's still a form of tanha, coming from the wrong place, coming from a sense of self. So that is harder sometimes for people to understand with relation to the enlightenment or to ending suffering altogether. But the problem, the difference there is the idea of a sense of self. Yeah. So anyway, so those are the desires that we need to end. If there are good desire, can there be good lies to protect the child? Very interesting question, right? Good desires and comparing good desires with good lies. Yeah. The Buddha never encouraged lies of any form. There are many other skillful ways to deal with these things, because it is dangerous, but because you mentioned to protect a child or protect somebody, I would say something that I have heard from Ajahn Brahm. So it's not the Buddha, so it's Ajahn Brahm. Okay, so I'm making it, and this is not from me. So it is up to you how you want to take it, and I will share this. So this is a real story, he said. He said it actually on the 4th Buddhist Global Conference. I heard this. And he said there was a couple. They were really good Buddhists. They were keeping their 5 precepts really well and, practicing as best as they can as lay people. So the husband came up with some kind of sickness and was in hospital, and whatever the kind of sickness he had to go for an operation, and he was told that there is only 50% chance of surviving. 50% chance that he would die during the surgery. And this is very well known for whatever condition that he was having. So he was in the hospital, and there was another person on the next bed, and they became friends during that little time that they were there waiting to be having this operation. And his new friend also had the same condition, of course, and went into surgery before him. And then by the time it was his turn to go in, he asked his wife, "What happened to my friend? Was he okay? Did he survive?" And unfortunately, that guy had died during the surgery because 50% chance, right? So he died. And the wife knew that he died. But the wife thought, now my husband is about to go in for the same surgery. And if I now tell him, he might get really worried and concerned. And that state of mind is not really good for him when he go into surgery he's going to become unconscious. And if he too dies with fear and worry and upset and all that, that is not really good. So she just decided at that time to say a lie. And she said, "Oh yeah, he survived. He's now in the intensive care unit or the recovery room, recovering, all fine, all good." So she lied. So anyway, he went into surgery. He survived. So her husband survived the surgery, got better. And after that, of course, she told that her friend has passed away. Then they came to confess to Ajahn Brahm. They were very upset. The lady was upset that she had to lie. So she asked, was that okay that what I did? So of course, it's a black and white karma. So there still will be some karma related to lying. But the reason why she lied, and this is where the Ajahn Brahm gave this mention, that there are 4 things, they're called 4 agatis, things that take you to hell. And that is whatever your decision to do something, if that is coming from a sense of self with strong desire, like selfish desire, whether it is coming from anger and ill will, or whether something is coming from fear, or something is coming from stupidity. Now, the last one is the hardest thing, right? To know whether we are doing something in a stupidity, because we don't know when we are stupid that we are stupid. So just to check, and am I coming from a really strong selfish desire? Whether I'm coming from ill will and negativity? Whether I'm coming from fear or stupidity? If you're not, instead, if you're coming from selflessness, from kindness, from generosity, openness of the heart, coming from non-fear, but instead of bravery, non-ill will, but compassion, coming from having investigated. Wisdom is like, you investigate, find out everything that is possible, and then act. So sometimes there is these kinds of gray areas, but to use them technically only in a situation like to save life, that kind of thing, not to take it lightly and just give little lies here and there, especially with little children. There are many more skillful ways to actually tell the truth. And it is important that they actually know the truth, but in a good way. Children are pretty intelligent and smart. And if you have the patience, even something difficult, you will be able to still say in a skillful way, or rather avoid for the time being. It's much better to avoid than actually tell a lie. So lying is never really good. It has only been okay to just maybe save life temporarily, and then you still tell the truth afterwards. So it's not a permanent lie, just short term, just to stop somebody from dying or saving somebody's life kind of thing. So we have to be very careful. So this is what I would share from I heard. So it's important to know how, if you have to ever bend a precept, but they are called black and white karma. So it's also, there's sometimes people like strictly keep the precept, but in the wrong way that is actually harmful for themselves and harmful for another. So this is, but it is very difficult. You need a lot of wisdom to be able to understand, or you need a bit of guidance. And if you are misguided and try to bend precepts, probably you go in the wrong direction. So it's best not to try that, but it is good to know if it's absolutely necessary, like to save life kind of thing. Then, we have to do the black and white karma. Yeah.